when there's nowhere to run and no time to take cover. There's no way to escape. Moments of impact. Coming up, a speedboat racer faces a career-ending catastrophe. Plus,
driver! Get off the car! Get your hands up!
a small town is rocked when a bank robber opens fire on police. And later,
All right, down.
a kiteboarder goes flying when he's hit with a hurricane-force wind. So hang on for dear life. You are about to experience the most dangerous moments ever caught on tape. Strap yourself in for Moments of Impact. Cheshire, England. The British GT Championships are among Europe's most intense and competitive races. 10 minutes into the battle, Hunter Abbott slingshots past the driver ahead.
Excellent job.
But seconds later, he'll regret that aggressive move. The trouble starts when Hunter motors into a tricky S-curve. He downshifts and shoots forward. But the other racer taps his rear wheel. Hunter nails the barrier at 100 miles an hour. He pitches into a power drilling spin. Even worse, the main fuel line ruptures, drenching the wreck with gasoline. It ignites, and Hunter is trapped in the inferno. The safety crew can't reach him through the 2,000-degree curtain of flames. Then, an amazing sight. Hunter tears himself free through the passenger window. He's ablaze as rescuers douse him with an extinguisher. Hunter staggers, shell-shocked, but alive.
And all of a sudden just gripped. And it was like a missile. It just went straight towards the wall. And it just went bang, 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 bang as it hit the floor again and again and again.
Hunter then finds himself cocooned in a blistering ball of fire.
Just literally a fireball went through the car. I could feel the skin bubbling on the backs of my hands. Thought was in my mind that this could be the moment I died.
Writhing from the fierce heat, the racer grapples toward daylight.
I was just such an immense feeling of relief. I rolled away from the car, and I had one leg on fire and one arm on fire, but to be honest, I didn't care. I was out of the car.
Unbelievably, he walks away with no major injuries. Hunter made a risky move in hopes of taking the lead. Instead, this gutsy driver took a beating. San Francisco, California. Stunt biker Paul McConnell shows off a new trick. If only he could nail the landing. While Paul's hot-dogging at 60 miles an hour, he notices a parked car in the distance. In his haste to set his wheel down, the bike begins thrashing, and Paul suffers a punishing collapse. The force of the collision is so strong, it obliterates the trunk. So his friend Vince can only imagine what the impact did to Paul. His helmet cam still rolling, Vince races to check on his fallen buddy. But Paul is non-responsive. His eyes rolled back in his head. Just as Vince fears the worst, a good sign. The battered man lets out a gut-wrenching moan. Paul suffers broken ribs, a broken nose, and 2 broken hands. If not for his heavy protective gear, he wouldn't have pulled through. This rowdy rebel wanted to perform an awe-inspiring stunt. But his most shocking move of all was merely surviving. Lakeland, Florida. In his enormous mega-truck, Jared Ford towers over the competition from a cab almost 2 stories high. He revs his jacked-up giant to race a mud bog,
Jared Ford is next.
the messiest time trial on Earth. But Jared's friend Chuck fears a downpour has put his pal in grave danger.
When that rain set in, it probably put 10 inches of water on top of this mud pit. So it's like driving down a smooth road, but not being able to see potholes in the road.
Ignoring the hazard, Jared guns it. It's a big mistake. The thick mud conceals a deep crack. Jared blazes into it at full speed, somersaulting the 4-ton Titan. He panics and tries to jump out, but he's brutally pinned under 8,000 pounds of steel. Chuck fears his friend has been crushed, when suddenly, Jared's arms thrash the surface. He's alive, but drowning.
I could hear him screaming underwater, burbling, gargling through this mud water.
Chuck rushes to save his buddy's life.
They have got to get him out of there. He's got to be pinned.
I'm grabbing and pulling, and I could hear him grasping for air, and I could feel his last gasp for breath, and I could feel his body relax.
Time is running out.
Look at all these people coming to help out.
With a massive tug from spectators, Jared is pulled free, mud burbling from his lips.
He's out. Good, I'm so glad to see he's out.
As soon as he gasped his first breath and blew chunks of mud and water out all over the place, I was happy.
The crowd cheers the miraculous rescue as Jared catches his breath.
There was potholes in the track, anywhere from 6 inches to 6 foot deep. I knew they were there, just could not see them. I was trying to fight to get out from underneath the truck. I pulled and tugged, tried to dig. And the next thing I know, I see daylight.
That is by far the scariest thing I have ever seen.
I was rushed to the emergency room, major bruising, no broken bones. They did all kinds of MRIs, testing, no major injuries.
It's not just the swampier than usual mud pit that caused this monster truck to tip. Because its engine is so powerful, when the front wheel hits the pothole, the vehicle has too much momentum to stop.
A lot of horsepower is very hard to tame. It's hard to run in a straight line to keep traction.
He is one of the guys who lived through something he probably shouldn't have lived through.
This monster trucker's drive to win nearly drove him to an early death. Coming up, when a street sign goes down, innocent people might go with it. Then later, an oil carrier hops the tracks, igniting a furious firestorm. Plus, a speedboat race hits the skids and leads to a massive wipeout. On Moments of Impact. Monterey, Mexico. High winds turn a street sign into a weapon. "60-mile-an-hour gusts twist the billboard like a pretzel. A bus loaded with people passes underneath, just as the steel support beam collapses. The massive crash site blocks the highway, and shocked passengers are left reeling from the impact. Some are bruised and frightened, but no one is seriously injured. From an accident that turned a highway into a disaster. In Mirage, California, a dry lake bed serves as an annual gathering point for all manner of personal aircraft. Dominating the skyline are auto-gyros, a type of mini helicopter that gives pilots the thrill of open-air flight. They're also relatively easy to handle, drawing many amateurs to the scene, eager to test their wings. The owner of this copter agrees to let his buddy take it for a whirl, with strict instructions to stay below 10 feet. The friend clearly got carried away. And apparently, so did the aircraft's engine. The blistering temperatures and aggressive flying have caused the engine to overheat, and the rookie can't handle a stalled landing.
Holy!
Seconds later, witnesses are amazed to see the pilot emerge from the wreckage in one piece. But the news is not all good. As the man collapses in the dirt, rescuers find him conscious, complaining of some sharp pain.
Nothing else, just my back.
He'll get some treatment at the local hospital. But the auto-gyro is DOA. Hopefully the next time this guy takes to the skies, it won't just be on a wing and a prayer.
Holy!
Phoenix, Arizona. James Ray is a favorite to win at the Napa World Finals. But luck is not on his side. James' best friend Mike watches helplessly from the stands as a faulty rudder sends the boat into a wobble. A spin. And a 240-mile-an-hour wave of destruction. As the vessel lies in pieces, Mike has no idea if his buddy is alive or dead.
I actually physically got sick in my stomach. It was pretty devastating.
Then a huge relief. James's safety capsule kept him alive. The capsule is designed to eject when a boat loses control. Its sturdy composition of Kevlar epoxy resin protects the driver from the pounding impact.
He actually wanted to get out of the capsule. He didn't think he was hurt.
But James suffers a broken back. It will keep him in a full body cast for 3 months. James was willing to risk it all to win this race. But he'll have to settle for beating the odds. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Emergency personnel race to a fiery train derailment. 7 cars, loaded with 30,000 gallons of fuel, capsize in the middle of an oil and natural gas field. If any well ignites, it could trigger a catastrophic chain reaction, engulfing the countryside in poisonous smoke and flames. But before crews can reach the site, disaster. A massive explosion rocks the earth, and a 1,000-foot-high fireball scorches the sky. The potent cargo of crude oil and ethanol explodes. Belching a poisonous petroleum cloud that cloaks the county in darkness and fills residents' lungs with a toxic cocktail of fumes. The inferno threatens to engulf nearby homes. But the heat erupting from the tankers is too intense for firefighters to even get close. Hours later, the red-hot rail cars burn themselves out. The cause of the derailment is still under investigation after it turned a quiet countryside into hell on earth. Coming up, a smuggler dodges cops.
Yeah, look at this, this is crazy.
But can't avoid disaster. Then, a terrifying earthquake turns a construction site into a death trap. On Moments of Impact. Phoenix, Arizona. Police pursue a suspected smuggler in a white van.
Where's this guy going? I mean, this doesn't make any sense.
But when he hits gridlock, the driver blazes a treacherous trail to escape.
Yeah, look at this, this is crazy.
He blasts through barricades and faces down opposing traffic. He speeds toward a crowded intersection and straight for disaster. The criminal blows through a 4-way stop at 80 miles an hour and slams into a hatchback. The motorist in the blue car is 16-year-old Sarai Mutlu, who's taking his father to work.
I was just like, wow, did it hit me? Did this really happen? And I just looked to my dad, and he was gushing blood all over the car, pants, everything.
As for the smuggler in the van, his illegal cargo is revealed, shocking Sarai and his father.
Holy cow.
There were at least 24 people in this van that was no bigger than a normal SUV.
The passengers are Mexican citizens trying to sneak across the border. In all, 21 men pry their way out of the wreck and make a run for it.
Holy, look at this, this is crazy.
Police eventually round up all of the fleeing refugees, along with the driver. As devastating as the crash is, No one suffers major injuries, including Sarai's father. He sustains cuts and lacerations, but escapes with no broken bones.
Without him, I don't know what I would do. I was really scared I was gonna bury him.
The suspect gambled with innocent lives for an easy score. Fortunately, no one paid the ultimate price. Jacksonville, Florida. D. Peacock and his staff live for the rush of giving and getting tattoos.
These guys are here every day, working, doing what they love to do.
But those waiting to get inked up today are in for a four-wheeled body piercing. A driver loses control of a minivan and jumps the curb, crashing into the waiting room at 40 miles an hour. Shocked, Dee staggers into the reception area.
When I walked into the room, my first instinct was somebody's dead.
Employee Trevor Melia is one of those caught directly in the path of destruction and hammered 10 feet across the floor.
All I could hear was Trevor saying, oh my God, over and over.
I just remember going towards the display case really fast and thinking, oh man, I'm gonna hit this. But I kind of did this like almost tuck and roll thing.
The lucky landing saves Trevor from major injury. His buddy also narrowly misses a shattering smash-up. Irate employees descend on the vehicle, but they're in for a surprise. The driver's merely a distracted mom with a van full of kids. They're as frightened as anyone, and just as lucky to survive unhurt. Police determine that the woman accidentally hit the gas instead of the brake. One thing's for sure. The spectacular wreck has left an indelible impression on these body artists.
I thought it was time to cash in my chips. I really did. I was thinking, I'm too young to go.
Taipei, Taiwan. A 5.0 magnitude quake wreaks havoc on the city. But the biggest danger isn't on the ground. It's in the sky. The violent tremors tear a 12,000-pound jib crane from atop a 60-story high-rise. The steel beams plummet, unleashing chunks of cement from the building's frame before crashing into a work site. But before laborers can assess the damage, another disaster. A second crane dislodges and plunges 560 feet down the other side of the skyscraper. A huge slab of concrete dangles precariously from the airborne hoist. On the ground, throngs of people run for their lives as the massive impact annihilates several parked cars caught in the landing zone. Investigators determined the Tembler loosened the crane screws, causing the tragic accident. 23 people suffer injuries in the horrifying collapse, but many more make it to safety. When this earthquake rumbled underground, nobody expected the biggest threat would come from overhead. Just seconds away, tigers sink their teeth into a terrified zookeeper. And a kiteboarder tests his limits and takes a brutal dive. On moments of impact. Fox Point, Wisconsin is the kind of safe, quiet suburb where nothing bad ever seems to happen. Until today. Security cameras at a bank capture a robbery in progress.
Give me the money. You have 2 seconds.
The crook makes off with the cash. And outside, a getaway driver speeds him from the scene.
Hi, yes, calling from Cornerstone Community Bank. Our bank was just robbed.
Okay, can you give me a description?
Instantly, an all-points bulletin goes out.
Bank robbery at Cornerstone.
26-10-4.
Less than 2 minutes later, police catch up to them.
I got him. He stopped right in the middle of the intersection.
Stunned residents watch as the street floods with cruisers. No one's more shocked than Jody Wallace, who finds herself right behind the man they're all after.
I was thinking about my day and listening to something on the radio, and when I turned my head to the left, I see a police officer with his gun held out in front of him.
Shut off the car!
At that point, I knew something huge was happening.
Get your hands up!
Another driver hurries to get away.
Get your hands up!
But Jody's vehicle is boxed in.
As I looked to my right, I could see an officer using the top of my car to sight his rifle at the red car in front of me. This was absolutely the most scared I've ever been in my life.
Driver! Passenger, hands up!
And the people in the red car, you couldn't really tell what they were doing, but they were absolutely not listening to the police officers.
Get your hands on the top of the roof! All the way up! Get your hands up! Hands up!
That's when the showdown takes a chilling turn.
He's got a gun in his hand.
As the suspect ramps things up, Jody realizes she needs to get to safety, fast.
He's got a gun in his hand.
I'm thinking that these guys are going to start shooting any minute, and I got to get out of my car.
That guy's moving on the left. He had his gun in the hand.
As I open my car door, all I can think about is, I hope they don't start shooting now.
Fire shut off, it's in park.
And please let me get to safety.
Got signs in the car.
Jody takes cover behind another car, and with no time to spare, when an officer runs in to throw down a spike strip, the suspect opens fire on him, and a furious shootout erupts.
There are so many guns drawn and so many bullets flying. I just thought we were all going to be dead.
Police hold their fire, and an eerie hush falls over the scene.
10-4, I was shot at from the passenger. 10-4, shoulder release.
Then, movement. The getaway driver emerges. That's when police make a stunning discovery. It's a pregnant woman.
You guys folks on the car, I got her. All towards me.
She surrenders peacefully, but her accomplice stays put.
He said he shot twice? Is he hurt? Yeah. Hey, she's saying, hey, Dad! She's saying he is hit. He wasn't moving. The subject has been hit. He was sealed up in location.
Officers approach with extreme caution.
One day. No movement. Hand in the pocket.
But the injured man is in no position to resist now. As paramedics tend to the robber, police check to make sure no one else is injured.
Everybody's okay, right? Nobody's down, nothing?
No reported officer injured at this time.
I got him.
Jody is relieved not just for herself, but for the brave men and women who protected her.
Hands up!
The police were able to end the situation with nobody being hurt because of their training. This was absolutely the bravest thing I have ever seen in my life.
Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. A police lieutenant pulls over a speeding motorist who turns out to be a little more than he can handle. She bolts out of her car, ready for a face-off. And what she lacks in size, she makes up for with attitude.
Let me see your license, please, and insurance.
I sure do.
Let me see it.
You don't talk back to me.
Hey.
You don't talk back to me.
The feisty driver gets physical, shoving the lieutenant.
You don't talk back to me.
Now, her minor infraction is causing major pain.
Send me back up, please.
Bring anyone in.
I want to see insurance, please, ma'am.
Go away.
Do not.
The woman's second jab
Go away.
Do not.
pushes the cop to his limits.
Do not touch me, please, like that, okay?
And finally, she gets a rise out of him. Tired of fending off her relentless kicks, the officer swoops the featherweight off her feet and hauls her to the cruiser.
What's the problem here? I need a backup, please.
Soon reinforcements arrive, bringing the tiny tantrum to an end.
All I do is write her a ticket for speeding, for Pete's sakes.
Thanks to a titanic temper,
You don't talk back to me.
Hey.
this small-time offender
Ma'am.
Go away.
Do not.
is in big trouble. Manila, the Philippines. A safari bus takes tourists up close to a pack of tigers. But the innocent travelers are about to see nature at its most savage. It begins peacefully when their guide approaches one of the females. She submits to his authority. But another cat has different ideas. The tiger doesn't recognize the trainer. He stalks up behind him and pounces. Immediately, a pack mentality takes over, and a third joins the horrific free-for-all. The gamekeeper fights back desperately against the 600-pound beasts. But a meager baton is no match for the onslaught of razor-sharp teeth and claws. Now, a fourth big cat smells blood and bounds over to finish him off. The stunned tourists are powerless to intervene as the besieged man cries out for help. That's when the bus rolls up to create a barrier. A wrangler steps in and helps the dazed zookeeper stagger to safety. He suffers bites over most of his body and severe bleeding on his right arm. But he narrowly escapes with his life. After a group of caged animals responded to the call of the wild. Coming up, a rollerblader's adrenaline rush leads to an adrenaline crush. Plus, a quad rider ramps up for excitement and rams into a mountain. On Moments of Impact. Rochester, New York. A rollerblader has a painful smackdown. The freewheeling wild man pulls off a 540 jump off an 8-foot halfpipe, rotating 1.5 times in the air before catching just enough ramp to regret it. And with bigger wheels come even bigger problems. Jackson, New Jersey. This is Kevin Manser's first time riding an ATV, and could be his last. Kevin revs up to cross a 50-foot gap. And it's obvious to everyone but him that he doesn't have enough speed to make it. Kevin is rammed against the rocky cliff at nearly 70 miles an hour before plunging 40 feet to the canyon floor. Luckily, he's still breathing.
Instantly, like, my chest just started to hurt, and like I went incoherent, like I didn't know where I was. I tried to think of what I should do, but by the time like I did hit, I had nothing to do other than flop around like a rag doll. I still came out in one piece. I'm thankful for what happened.
It's a reminder that the higher the height, the harder the hurt. Moorhead, Minnesota. College student Adam Olson is getting ready for a nighttime ride-along with Officer Joel Voxland. He thinks it'll be a quiet evening.
When we got in there, I was sitting down, he was showing me all the gadgets, and then he had, said, well, don't expect much tonight.
But Adam's first lesson will be to expect the unexpected.
Officer Voxland saw a guy, he thought maybe he got a couple headlights out, so he turned to follow him, and the guy started increasing his speed.
Put your seatbelt on, he's speeding up.
Before he knows it, Adam has a front row seat to a high-speed chase.
I was thinking, this is escalating, this is pretty intense. And my adrenaline's pumping.
Suddenly, the fugitive skids and clips a parked car. But instead of stopping, he looks for another escape route. He pulls into the parking lot of an apartment complex.
I don't know what this guy's gonna do next. He was really unpredictable.
The menace appears to be cornered, but he's not giving up. Adam waits in the passenger seat while the officer steps out, gun drawn. Instead, it's Adam who's in the line of fire. The suspect floors it in reverse.
Well, the car started revving up, and before you know it, there was smoke everywhere, and then all of a sudden you heard a crunch, and there was a vehicle right on top of us.
The brazen driver peels out and speeds off, while Officer Voxland checks on Adam.
You okay?
Other lawmen hunt down the hood-hopping maniac. As for Adam, he just got a crash course in life on the beat. Up next, it's Kiteboarder versus Hurricane and a smackdown drag-out fight for survival. on Moments of Impact. Charleston, South Carolina. 35-mile-an-hour winds tear across the shore. Dale Sleer can barely stand up in this weather. But that won't stop him from kiteboarding in it.
When I showed up at the beach, sure enough, I see Dale getting ready to go, and I'm thinking, Dale, you're gonna kill yourself. What are you doing?
Okay, Dale's going out.
His fellow boarders think he's crazy.
He's gonna die, dude.
But Dale is determined to have the ride of his life.
Oh, that sucks. Oh my God.
Silence falls over the beach as Dale's friends wait for a sign of life amid the turbulent surf. Then, an incredible sight.
Oh my God. That's
get out, yeah!
Yeah!
All right, down.
The fearless athlete was blindsided by a 71-mile-an-hour gust and hurled 4 stories high. But it was the trip back down that really stung.
I hit the wave, and immediately the board just got ripped off my feet. And I started going in this crazy spin, and right after that, the wind just kind of shut off. God, I knew it was gonna be like the highest diving board belly flop ever. I hoped for the best, relaxed like a rag doll, and took it. Just took it like a man.
Dale's fellow boarders greet him like a hero.
All right, down.
I didn't suffer any injuries. I was really sore the next week after that. Like I had just gotten in a car wreck, but I was lucky.
As far as anyone on this beach is concerned, Dale just proved what kiteboarding is all about.
Realizing this is an extreme sport, you have to deal with some of the consequences if you're going to push the limits. And I was willing to do that, and I walked away from it.
It happens in an instant. Your pulse starts racing. Your body tenses. You're shaken to the core. And your only instinct is survival. You've just experienced Moments of Impact.